Welcome to Mindset Mastery Moments, the best growth mindset podcast recognized by Million Podcasts and ranked as a top mindset podcast by FeedSpot. We're proud to be in the top 1% on Listen Notes. Join Dr. Alisa Whyte as we explore powerful insights and strategies to elevate your mindset. Let's dive in.
Let me say this up front. Common sense didn't disappear. We just stopped prioritizing it. Welcome back to Mindset Mastery Moments. I'm Dr. Alisa, the #1 mindset disruptor, and today's conversation is one I believe we urgently need. We live in a culture obsessed with hacks, shortcuts, and hot takes, and backdoors, you name it. But what if the real power move is returning to values? And y'all know I talk about this a lot in my work and on this podcast. Not performative values, not values we post online and all cutesy. I'm talking about values we practice when nobody's watching. Yeah, the ones when you're in the bathroom sitting on the toilet bowl. Yeah, graphic, I know. But that's a lot of thinking and one-on-one time happens there. Who are you really when you're in the bathroom? Because here's what I know for sure. When common sense and core values become part of your daily mindset, you don't just improve your life, you stabilize it. You strengthen your relationships, you build trust, discipline, self-respect. From that place, just extraordinary thing happens. And that's why I'm excited about having today's guest on. Today, I am joined by Ms. Colleen Souza. She's an educator turned leader, speaker, podcaster, and the author of Living by the Mantras. What I appreciate about Colleen's work is this. She doesn't complicate wisdom. She takes everyday sayings and things we've heard all our life, and she reframes them as values in motions. Not cute quotes, not motivational fluff, not fairy tale wishes and sprinkle on top, but real usable principles for how we lead, parent, love, and live. Colleen, welcome to Mindset Mastery. Welcome to your second home. I'm so glad to have you. I felt your energy when we first connected via email and getting this coordinated. And now meeting you has been such a pleasure. You have already a special place in my heart and my work already. So tell us in your own way who you are, what you do, and why you do it.
Well, there you go. Well, I mean, that introduction, I'm like, wow, that's what my book
Well, I
is
was
about.
in your Kool-Aid. I've been in your Kool-Aid. You know I've been all in your Kool-Aid and probably your sides too.
I love it. So my name is Colleen, and I like to say I've worn more hats than a milliner's shop over the years. I am a mother of 3. I love my kids. I have been married for 36 years to the same guy. Train that one, not starting over again for any reason, but I love him to death. And
Watch out, sister. Yes,
my best friend. So I'm very fortunate.
I love it.
I have had a number of careers. I was never going to be a teacher because everyone told me I should. I was sharing that with Dr. Alyssa earlier. But I became a teacher because it was calling for me. I love to teach. And I spent 20 years in the public school system teaching, and the last 15 of them.
And we should say thank you for your service, just like we say to militaries, because I've been an educator and I know. It's a battlefield.
15 of them in junior high. So I really feel like I've done a tour of duty because that's an incredible place to hang out with kids that don't want to be there. But I enjoyed it and I loved it. And I had a lot of success in the classroom. I'm going to step back. Of the 3 kids, as I was raising them, and my husband and I were raising them, I got to give them credit where it's due. But the bottom line was we'd get people complimenting us on our kids were able to make eye contact. They communicate well. They seem to never have meltdowns. Not in public. They do well in school and they got along with one another. And so I started to pay attention to some of the things that we were doing. Then I transitioned to the classroom and I'd got students from all over the place, but my students were always scoring the highest back in the days when I'm from California, when we had our state standards that we were assessing them by. And I didn't send kids to detention. And people would say, well, how come you never have kids in detention? What's going on? I started to pay attention, and I was using the same principles and techniques that I was using at home with my children in my classroom. Right. Fast forward, when my 2 oldest were off in college, my husband looked at me and said, college is crazy. Hire someone to help me double my real estate business. And I said, because
I'll take the job.
I I have been doing this for a while. So I jumped on board to support him and ended up spending the last 16 years working with him in our real
Wow.
estate company. And in that process, suddenly I was busy training lots of new agents that were coming along as we were having success, and they were becoming very successful themselves. So I started to pay attention to the fact that I was using the same kind of ideas and principles that had
Yes.
woven their way through my life to that point. And that's what created my book that I wrote. My book is Living by the Mantras,
Yes.
Common Sense Wisdom for an Extraordinary Life. And basically it's it's what you were saying earlier. If we are grounded in our values, no matter what they
Mhm.
are, that's the point that we can launch to success.
Mhm.
In our household, if you were to call out, I love to do this when there's lots of people around. I love to yell when my kids are in the house anywhere, even as adults. What's rule number one? And in unison, they'll go, keep your pants on. And that was a rule in our house. And that's the first chapter of the book. But really, it came out of a childhood story with my son. But it means think about your choices. Because, keep your pants on,
Yes.
it's calm down
Keep
to
it
make better
yes.
choices, whatever. So in our house, keep your pants on was think about the choices you're making. Rule number
Mhm.
2, they have in unison. If it's wet and not yours, don't touch it. And that was about self-control.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then the third one that they can all repeat, the top 3, was leave it better than you found it, which was
A
respect. So really
absolutely,
it was
my
about
mom forced that.
choices, it was about self-control, it was about respect, and on and on and on and on. So we had phrases, we had words, we started calling them mantras. What's the mantra for that? Or we'd say it and we'd say, what does it mean? And they'd wrap their brain around it. And I realized I put those up on the walls of my classroom. I'd have different phrases.
Yes.
I use them because once again, they're about those values. And when you attach
Mhm.
yourself to core values and you have grounding about how your behavior should how you should show up in the world, and you have some vision, their vision, their personal responsibility, embracing failure, delayed gratification. If you understand whatever the principle is and you can put it in your life on a daily basis, then
Mhm.
you're going to be a much healthier emotionally, mentally,
Yes.
socially person, and you're gonna have a better impact on the world around you. When you have a better impact on the world around you, you grow. And when you grow, you have more success. And it's a cycle. And so that was the process. And finally, I decided it was time to write them down. My husband looked at me and he said, you need to write down the way that you instruct and teach and guide because it's of great value. And
It is.
so the book was born. And it ended up with 21 of the mantras, but we like to jokingly say that there were so many more.
So there's gonna
I
be the
went
mantras
to
part 2.
this yeah. Well, I could go on and on and on, but it's funny because I said to the whole family about 2 years ago, "I want you to send me whatever mantra, the thing that you remember mom saying all the time. What left a mark on you? And I wanna know, what it was
Wow.
and why." And it was funny, already done, and there were 20 chapters, and my adult son, who's 32 now, but 2 years ago, he's
She keeps
coming
blowing
out
my
of
mind with this this 32 thing.
he was on his way home, driving down the highway on his way home from a business meeting, and he goes, "Mom, you've got to have begin with the end in mind because it's something we said all the time, right?" And he was like, I just came out of a meeting and no one had the vision for what this should have been from the beginning. And now we're starting from scratch again. And I want to look at the whole group and say, did we not begin with the end in mind? He goes, I could just hear dad saying that. So it was one of those, and that was a proud moment as mom because I'm like,
Yes.
he's walking into his adult life and he's spewing these back out at people about, the values that they need and the ideas. So yeah, there's just lots, and then that's fun.
And let me tell you, we will talk a little bit about her children because when someone writes a book like this, a lot of people put us under the microscope of where they live in her life, her children's lives. And as an educator, are exactly what she's teaching. So here's the thing. You are saying that we're living in a time where basic wisdom feels rare. I feel like it because people are saying a lot. Common sense is not that common. Like you hear it over and over again, and they're talking like, well, we don't want to be negative, but come on now. The things, right? Patience, responsibility, self-control. Some of those sound pretty old fashioned to a lot of people, but those are things that we could never out technology. That's not a word. We could never out technology or AI these values and principles, right? But in your work, you make the case that these are the very things that create extraordinary lives. So let me ask you it this way. Why do you think common sense feels almost radical in today's culture?
I have lots of thoughts on that, but you made me go like
Don't
this. So,
don't
I'm
try to
really,
be just
oh,
be
that's it.
you, just be authentic, let it rip. This is a candid, authentic space. This is where we
Well,
tell the truth and it
I think
lives.
a large portion of it has
Mhm.
to do with how scattered we are. And
Mm,
the lack of, and so I share this. So really, I'm going to step back and say that, my book is written in a storytelling way, if you will, because I believe that every human being has a story. And
yes.
one of our biggest jobs is to sit back and listen to
Mhm.
those stories and love people for their story. But as I tell the story of my family, which is really what happens, because I tell the story of my family, I tell my story of the classroom, I tell my story of our business. But one of the things I was able to witness firsthand is having my oldest be 32 and my
Mm.
youngest be 20, almost 21,
Yeah, 10 years apart.
12 years apart.
Right, right.
That made a difference in the way they interacted as young children to the way that they became teens and to what they're doing in their adult world in regards to technology, in regards to the distraction of things like phones and
Mhm.
social media. And I think that one of the biggest issues that is facing us is there is a certain focus. When we
Mm.
grew up, and now I shared earlier, I'm quite a bit older. So when I grew
We
up,
can't tell.
I
They
grew up
they
in
gonna be like wondering how old you are. Somebody's gonna go look up on social media to figure it out.
I'll tell you, I'll be 58 years old in just a few days.
Gosh, she looks great.
I I'm a Gen Xer at the core, and I grew up in
Yeah.
that generation where we knew that it was time to be home and have our hands washed at the dinner table as the street lights came on, as the sun went down, or whatever time of year it was. We didn't have electronic devices
We
attached to us.
knew.
Oh,
Our
we just
bodies
knew.
knew.
We just
And
knew.
we're 10 almost yeah, you're 12 years older than me, but I was raised the same way
Yeah,
in Guyana,
you
South
just knew.
America. We just
Yeah.
knew. We ran. We knew we even knew when we were late.
And we sensed. You could just because of the connection, because of not having the distractions, the frequencies, whatever were floating in the air.
I guess,
Um,
yeah.
no 5G messing with you. Your mom needed you to be home, and you knew it. And
Yes.
so, and we were out and we were playing, and my husband and I were just I have a podcast, and he was with me on my podcast the other day, and we were covering the concept of respect. And when we were talking about it, I realized, when I was a kid, there was so much face to face and you get the energy and the interaction. So this would be a really good example of it. You
Mhm.
knew if you were offending somebody, you knew if you were disrespecting somebody because you were right there face to face with that person and you could feel their energy and you were interacting and you would have your little issue where, I laughed. I was telling my husband, I'm sure with boys, you just punched each other if you were mad enough and then you
They
shook
did.
hands and got over it. And,
Yes.
we girls would just be like, I can't believe you said that. And whatever happened, and we solved it and it
Yes.
taught us to understand how to respect our friends. And there was just so much face to face interaction. Now
Mhm.
there is so much shielded screen interaction. And the problem is, even in the best situation, like we both got clear screens with one another. We can see each other smile, but I can't get your energy. I can't do that because you're not in the
Right.
same space with me.
Right.
And that being said, our younger people of our world, when we're seeing it get worse and worse, they're spending more and more time shielded behind a screen, and they're not spending enough time in
In a real
interconnectivity, which
world.
teaches
Yeah.
them whether it's respect, whether it's positivity, whether it's,
Mhm.
they got to make choice. Everything is less tangible and real to them. And I watched that progress because my older two children, when they were in high school, I would have to remind them to charge their phones because I had it on them because it was something that I wanted them in case of emergency. They were busy
Security.
kids,
Yeah.
doing a lot of stuff. They got to send 5 texts a day and they were over the limit. Like it was not like it was something that they even thought about. By the time my youngest was in high school, I had to walk into a room being
Mm,
that she's so young compared to her sibs, and she was kind of like an only child. I'd walk into a room and go, "Who am I in the room with?" Because I always knew there was someone on FaceTime. I always knew there was someone digitally there that she was hanging with, doing her homework with. I'm like, as I walk in, I need to filter myself. Who am I in the room with?
what?
Because as a kid, in part, a lot of times it was with one of her older siblings who were just
Yes,
hanging out,
yeah.
helping her do homework. But nonetheless, she'd always have it propped up there, and you know, and to her,
Just
she'll call in college, she'll call me and wanna be on the phone and just have it sitting there while she's doing things around the apartment. I'm like, "Were we
that's just
talking, or am I watching you do the dishes?" She goes, "We're hanging out."
we're
That's
hanging
hanging out
out, we're
to her.
vibing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we're those lack of enough experience interacting and having to do the job and do the thing, I think
Mhm.
has really affected, the way that we value things and the way
I
that we
agree.
behave, and I know that's part of it, and I'm not trying to pick on any millennials that are watching this, but the millennial
No.
generation in general wanted to be so different, and they are a special character of themselves. I've studied them,
Yeah.
and I raised 2 millennials, so I got my own, and then I have 1
Yeah.
Gen Zer, but those millennials are becoming parents. So when we talk about the importance of transferring common sense values, I'm just not seeing it happen because they decided they were going to be different and they're going to raise their kids differently. And
Why?
there's some kids out there who have not been raised with the same values they were raised with.
That's right.
And it's a concern. And so I saw it
Majorly.
happening in the classroom. I see it in my younger daughter's friends. It's just like, yeah, we own a business. We employed some young kids for a while, and
Mhm.
getting them to be
To
able to
focus
do
in and take
focus in or
accountability.
understand why what when I asked you to go deliver this, well, I was gonna get to it. No, no, no. Do you understand that if you're not early, you're late? Do you understand we have one chance to make a first impression? Do you understand that we're not respecting the client's time? Do you understand that you're not, whatever? And so there is a generation out there that needs these more than ever.
They need it. That is so true. I want listen, and that's why I talk about mindset too, and I was telling you early, one of the things I wanna do is put together a college tour with stuff that you have here, Colleen, and some of the mindset things, because I believe we literally have to have a class on campus that teaches children how to think because their parents are not gonna do it. I had a quote in my room several years ago, and I probably still have it put away somewhere. It said, "The best thing we can do is teach our children how to, the best things we can do is give our children wings. And the wings we give them is to teach them how to think."
Mhm.
These children are not, and I hate to say it's a sweeping generalization, but I know I'm not out of any pocket. When I look at what now, 2026, how a third, a fourth, even a fifth grader processes, I don't know. I'm like, okay, I'm building a bunker. People want to build a bunker because they're worried about World War III. No, I'm not worried about World War III as much as I'm
Yeah,
worried
then
about what
you
kind of world
involved
this
in
gonna be.
running my world. I know, it's interesting because it's things like, and I've experienced them along the way as we send my husband and I truly believed, w so I don't know if you know about doves. Doves mate for life, okay, the bird, the doves, and we have a
Yes.
lot of them here in the Central Valley of California where, we live, and
Hmm.
so at our old home where my, big kids grew, we call them the big kids in our house, where the big kids grew up, we had flower basket that I gave up having flowers in, but I kept like that straw stuff in the bottom. And every year, the same two birds would come back and nest in that spot. And so my kids named them Luke and Leia. And so we would watch Luke
Oh.
and Leia have their little birds every year. And it was an incredible life lesson for my kids because
Hmm.
it didn't take long before you'd see them pushing the little birdie out of the nest, pushing the little nest. And every time we paid, because it was right off of our dining room window, every time we noticed that it was getting close to times for the babies to go, my husband or I would point it out. What are mom and daddy bird doing now? They're kicking them.
Because
Okay.
they
But
have
when
to take on.
so because that's something else that we don't do anymore. We
We
don't
don't
hold
let them.
responsible to adults. And all 3 of my kids, well, the third is yet to happen, but I'm pretty sure it will. My first 2, we told them, we were able to work hard and pay for their college, and we said, "You didn't take on debt, but you have 6 weeks from when you graduate to be off the payroll. And in 6 weeks, you have to have a job. And even if you don't find a perfect job in your career field, you
Too
have to
bad,
find
find one. Some
as
job.
as you're coming back and working at Starbucks, even though I paid for college, because I'm not going to pay for you to live a life." They all went off to big cities. Both my kids had excellent jobs in their career fields as they graduated because they
That's what
knew
they're supposed to do.
I knew, and it was part of that pushing that birdie out of the nest, and, "Oh, you guys are so tough on your kids." No, we had some core common
Well, you're
values about
raising people who are gonna be
personal
responsible for
responsibility.
themselves, and by
Yeah,
that way, they'll be able to be responsible for making this world a better place,
yes.
thank God.
Well, and I think that's the other thing, we've become very, enclosed and selfish, and
Yes.
I think that we're seeing it more than ever post-COVID because everybody got so closed in and their little bubble was all that mattered to them,
Yes.
and,
Yes.
part of that not looking out for the needs of others, understanding it's not all about you, is another thing that shaving back the common sense because you should be out there contributing. You should be out there working. You should be out there.
Mhm.
You were given a gift, you were born with a purpose. What are you doing with it? And having your mindset wrapped around the idea that you have value. And I spend a lot of time talking about how we raised our kids with these, and I give lots of examples. But it's really not a parenting book in and of itself. The mindset worked as I trained students that came to me in junior high because that was the age I taught, right? And then I did it with adult agents as I sat them down and said, "Okay, what's your role?" At any place, we can jump back on the common sense train,
Come
and we
on.
can shift the way that we are behaving and the way that we're looking at life, and we can offer something more for ourselves and for the world around us. It's so vital.
I love it. What I'm hearing is this: when values disappear, chaos fills the gap,
Uh-huh,
and people don't need
absolutely.
more information, they need anchors, and that's what the mantras are all about.
That
So
is a
one of
great way to say it. I'm gonna quote
Yeah.
you on that. I'm
Yeah,
stealing
you
that.
can't go. No, you got it. It's yours, girl. One thing I want to highlight for our listeners is your mantras aren't just sayings, they're decision filters. So as I even process it, and that's how you put it over, they really help people decide. And in my work, Colleen, I talk about connecting with your core values and your true beliefs. And a lot of times people think about values, they think about, well, what do I value? Well, before you even figure out what you value, you have values. And this is what your mantras are. They're really values, 21 of them that can be anchored as decision filters, meaning when you talk about keeping your pants on, think about what that means. You can go, look, think about it. You're not going to just expose yourself anywhere and anytime. I mean, that's how I process it, right? Because my brain is a little flipper. So you're not gonna just take off your clothes anywhere, right? So you're gonna keep it on. So if you're keeping your pants on, that means you are number one, you're putting on pants. So you're keeping things where they need to be. You probably took your time to iron it, but then you're also stepping out in a space where whatever is happening in your environment, you're going to stay grounded with pants. You're not going to just take it off. As I said, don't get all your britches in a wad, things like that. It's a value that you're looking at. So when I look at it, so here's the thing I'm looking at it's helping people decide how they show up under pressure, how they respond instead of reacting, how they treat people when it would be easier to not, you know what I'm saying? Like no one's watching. So let's ground this. When you talk about living by values daily, what does that actually look like in practice, especially when life could be so busy and stressful and messy?
Well, and that's why I like the concept of a mantra or a statement or a saying because, it stays in your mind. It
And it
pops in
takes
there
off
and
the
and it
pressure
makes you
too.
smile or, it takes off the pressure. It shows up because it has meaning to you, and I mean, I share, in one of the chapters as a teacher, when I would plan out a unit for teaching my students, I would have to begin it's kind of beginning with the end in mind, but it's the idea that I knew what they had to be assessed on. I knew what the standard was that they were supposed to be learning. And it was
Mhm.
really important that whatever I did started with that standard, started with that need that they had to learn this. I could check that off the list. I taught English and I taught history, so we'll stick with history. I had to teach them about this thing that happened in history. Now, I could do it in a plethora of ways, but once I knew what that was, I could backwards map to how did I want that to show up? How did I want to teach them how to get to that ultimate knowledge right here?
Right,
And
that's
I
the end in
but I
mind.
think I think the way that it shows up in daily life is you have to understand first that there are standards and
Mhm.
values by
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
when you live a value driven life, there's less chaos, there's less trauma, you're grounded, like you said. You understand that you're going to live your best version of yourself. And then and because you are, it's that compounding, rippling effect. Other people around you are going to feed off of your positivity. And
Mhm.
so you've got to start by absolutely understanding that those values are important. And
Mhm.
you can start at either end. You can start with a saying, or a phrase, or something that means that, or you can say, I really know that I have got to work on positivity. I
Mhm.
have got to work on positivity. And I've got to find a way to remind myself to be about positivity, not negativity. In my world, the phrase and the mantra in our book and in our household was we're about solutions, not problems. And that was our positivity mantra because you're going to have problems. That's just a part of being in the world and being human. You're going to face problems. But once they come, whine about it, get it out, share. I got a shoulder, I got big shoulders. Let me hear it. But then once you got it out, what's the solution you're going to come up with to make this a better situation? Because sitting in the problem is a messy place to be. Clean it up and figure out how you're going to find a solution. And so it's finding a phrase. And as I share my mantras out, I like to tell people, you are welcome to steal ours. If that works for you, it is absolutely yours to have because half of these are things I've heard from somebody else, right?
Right.
But if not, if that doesn't resonate with you, if you don't hear that and go, well, that's not what
What are
I think of when
yours?
I think of positivity, what makes you understand how important it is to shed the negativity and bring the positivity into your life? What is it? And
Mhm.
once you
Mhm.
discover what that phrase is, then that's what you work with. And it lives itself out because you say them. In our house with my kids growing up, whatever we needed to work on the most was on the fridge,
Mm.
to them. I love to tell people get a dry erase marker and write on your mirror because it'll wipe off later. But you can't if you get up in the morning, if for my daughter, my darling little daughter that lives down in the Phoenix area that goes to ASU, she is a sweetheart. But get her in the car and that girl is one hot mess. She's got road rage. Everybody makes her grumpy. Oh, I can't believe this.
She was not built for traffic.
She was not built for traffic. And so I tell her all the time, get a dry erase marker out there and either write smile or be nice on your rearview mirror. And I want you to do that
So
because
she
if
can
you
see it.
do, every time you're ready to yell at the guy behind you or you need to change lanes because the person in front of you is being stupid, then you can remember that you're supposed to be nice and smile. And I don't care where you put that in your car, that's a place of problem for you. And so
Right.
whatever it lives itself out by you finding your way to remind yourself of the value and then making sure you place it in a place you're not gonna miss it. That way it
Mhm.
reminds you. I have a post-it note that I've had for years on my desk. When I left teaching and went into real estate with my husband, one of the weirdest things for me is when you're a teacher, you live by the bell schedule. You know when you're going to talk to other adults, you know when you're gonna get a bathroom break, you know when you're gonna have a chance to grab a snack. And you know when all things are happening and they happen by the bell, and it's a very regimented life.
Mhm.
Suddenly, I have the freedom to do what I wanted to do. And after a couple weeks, I realized, wow, this is gonna be a little harder than I thought. So I made myself get up every day and act like I was
Right.
headed somewhere, like I had an appointment when I
I
didn't.
love that.
And
Yes.
I
I did
wrote
the same.
down on a post-it note that I taped, it says, get up, dress up, show up. And that sat next to me, and every day I'd look at it, and if I managed to wander in with the cup of coffee being all groggy and I hadn't taken the time, I'd be like, "Oh, shoot, I gotta go
You
back
gotta
upstairs,"
get up and get ready.
because I won't be in my best place for
Yes.
the day if I don't. So, for the first few months, that was super important to me because it was in a place that reminded me I had a value of hard work and I didn't wanna be being
Yes.
lazy. up with every excuse like, I don't need to work today. I should change the laundry. It's easier than calling a client. So I had to, figure those things out. So how it lives itself out is that you make sure you put it in a place or make it a habit in such a
Mhm.
way you can't forget.
You can't forget it. I love it. What I'm hearing, and I want our listeners and viewers to catch, is what that values aren't restrictive, they're stabilizing.
They
They
are.
reduce the emotional whiplash. They give you clarity when emotions are loud, like you were sharing with your daughter. And then they
Yeah.
also strengthen relationships because people know what version of you they're getting. Like
I
you
love
become a steady, stable person. People talk about, oh, they're so finically inflated, you never know which one you're going to get. It's because a lot of people have not connected or stay connected to their true values.
What is your priority? What is the vision you have for your future? And how do you think you get from one point to the next? And it's all of those things and understanding that the way that that's so much a part of it. The way
Mhm,
that we interact with the world around us. It's just
mhm,
so huge,
mhm.
so huge. And definitely.
I say this all the time. You don't rise to intentions, you default to values.
Mhm.
And that's where I want to go next with you because one of the things you are saying in your mantras is you're putting it as the anchor, and I said it earlier, it's like a filter. If you can give us a couple of those main values mantras that we can walk away with today that would be transformational in anybody's lives, because
And it's hard. This is kind of like the question that I sometimes get is what's your favorite? I love them all, but there are
duh, that's why you there are 3 that can go everywhere,
that's why
right?
I did them, but I have a few that I would love to share and then share the story that goes with them because they've
Mhm.
been transformational. I've seen them be transformational in a number of ways, but I can speak with the most longevity to my family because, you know, I spent years in the classroom and I watched kids transform, but I'd have them for a year, maybe 2, and then they'd move on. And it's fun to run into them later. But I knew that what I was embedding in them in the short time that I had them was good.
What's
And I've
transformational,
done
yeah.
that in business, but over the last 16 years. But I've spent going on 33 years now raising children
Raising
and
3 children,
seeing
yeah.
the impact over time that these kinds of things have. Um, I'm gonna talk about one that I think is really awesome in regards to my youngest daughter. Okay. So being a parent that's always focused on how to make my children the healthiest, how to make my family the healthiest, how to make sure that they're moving forward, they have vision, they have focus. When she was about to start kindergarten, I had watched some little, social media video of a dad that would have his daughter stand and say something positive to herself in the mirror every day. And I had kind of started
Yeah,
to
I think
follow
I
that.
remember
And
that
that's really
video.
cute. That's really cute. So I decided that that's what little Gracie was going to do when she got out of the car to go to kindergarten every day. And so as she got out of the car, she had to look at me and tell me, I'm smart, I'm beautiful, and I'm going to have a great day. And it became something that, as years went by, she'd be like, smart and beautiful, and have a great day. And she'd like get out of the
Like,
car.
just
Or
going through the
there'd be times
motion.
that she would race out of the car and be like, I'm trying to be beautiful, have a great day. And it was all like one big blurry word. But the fact was, she made herself think of those things every single day. And she is my driven, tenacious version 3.0 cracks me up. I wasn't sure. I was just sure having her older and all these times. Anyways, I want to tell you all the things I used to say. Oh my gosh, this
I
one's
can
not going to be
imagine.
okay.
I
She's
know
going to
what
have
we
all these
women do.
problems. She's a whip of a smart kid, tenacious, brilliant, hilarious. When we were in COVID and here in California in COVID, we were really in lockdown a lot. And so the kids were at home for almost a year and they would do classroom at home. And because she wasn't leaving me every day, she wasn't saying those things to me anymore. And as she was and it was a rough time. She was a sophomore in high school during the worst of it. And that so her there was a couple of years there I think was really tough on those teenagers that were missing their high school experience. But she was getting to where she was pretty depressed. I was having a hard time getting her to do anything. And on top of the piece that was just feeling isolated, I realized we stopped talking nicely to ourselves every morning because we weren't leaving one another. It's the
Yeah.
little coffee place that was open, and we went and had a little breakfast together, and we talked through all the things she was thinking and feeling as much as I could get them out of her at 15. I said, honey, I was thinking about the fact you stopped saying this. So
Mm.
what we're gonna start doing again is when we meet up in the kitchen and have our breakfast and you head to the little room where you do your Zoom school and I head to my office, I said, "You're gonna tell me every single day." And she started saying it again, and it was
Mm.
amazing. I watched her come back to life as she said it to me every day. She started to have to think about it. "I'm smart, I'm beautiful, and I'm gonna have a great day, mom." "Okay, honey."
Mm.
She's now in her 3rd year at a university that's 9 hours away by car from me. If she's having a stressful day, if she's having a tough day, she calls me and she'll say, "Okay, make me say it," or she'll text me or she'll just say it's a rough day and I'll say, "What do you need to do?" And she'll say, "I'm smart, I'm beautiful, I'm gonna have a great day, I got this." Still embedded in her, and I'm not I'm not real big on this, but it's a generational thing. She wants to get a tattoo and she asked me to draw it out. And what does she want it to say? "I'm smart,
I'm
I'm
smart,
beautiful,
I'm
and I love
beautiful.
you," and she wants that on her arm so that she cannot miss it for the rest of her life. And I thought, well, my husband's like, "She wants to do what?" I'm like, "Doesn't matter, baby, because here's the deal. I know you don't like tattoos, but let's think about what it means. And let's think like she
Right.
could have had anything in the whole wide world, but it's the words we said
But
to
it's
her
the
every
words we
single
said
day."
to her, and it's
And then
powerful
and
beliefs.
so that was about manifesting and positivity, and that it was life changing. Now, obviously, everyone's gonna come up with that phrase, that positive set of words that's gonna offer them encouragement, whether it's, "I'm beautiful, I've got this," you know,
That is so
"This day
grounding.
is today is mine, here I go." If you just the switch you flip in your head when you do
Mm.
that,
Mhm.
you give yourself a moment of launching into your day. And so
Yes.
I think it can be life changing to people. I've watched it be life changing to her. And so then I try to do it with my other two, and they're like, "Yeah, right, mom." I'm like, "Okay, so I didn't start this at kindergarten, but
Yeah.
could you start
Yeah.
it now? Could you start it now in your
Right.
adulthood?" It's a good one. And I have
And we
those little
all
notes.
can start it now. What you
Yeah,
tell
and
yourself
I have a little
matters.
note on my computer about, like, "You've got this day, live it with passion." And
Mhm.
I mean, whatever it is, it's just that's a big one. So that's a good one that can transfer.
Do you want me to share mine? Every move I make brings me closer to becoming a millionaire. And then I have another one that's right there, but and I have to change it out because it's right on my bathroom, and I read it every day. That I'm a transformational coach, and I'm bringing in this amount of dollars. I have an amazing team that works with me, and they are making this amount of dollars for themselves, and I have like it's just about 4 lines, but I say it every day out
Yes.
loud because I believe what you think is and you speak is what you'll do, you'll create habits. So people who don't understand how I work and when I work, I know. It's grounding. What I saw you did with that with your daughter, the big word we're using a lot, and it's again a viral on social media, is dysregulation or regulate. Someone even has a podcast with their middle finger sticking up saying, what is it? Regulate yourself. Like that's the biggest word. But what she had been able to not only use those as positive affirmations, but she always also use it as a grounding activity to regulate her emotions, bring reassurance to her.
It is. It's
And
absolutely
that
that because
is
it
it.
doesn't matter where your day goes. You know you're smart. You know you're beautiful. You know this day is yours. Whatever your phrases and words are, I have a little list of them and I have them everywhere. I mean, if I could turn my camera around, I have them posted on the
Sticking out.
wall next to my desk. I have this little thing where I'm a big time blocking scheduling person and I have all this fun stuff around it because it has to be cute. This is who I am.
Yes, you're a teacher, my heart.
On it that has my list. So if I'm sitting here at my podcasting table, if I'm over at my desk, wherever I am, I have it on my little vanity in my bathroom because I want to remind myself these are the bulleted things that I'm going to achieve today, and I've earned them, and I'm headed to them. And yes, and that way when stuff comes at you, you're able to look at it and just go, okay, I can get beyond this. This isn't going to phase me. I do have another one
Exactly.
that I do want to share that is can be life changing for people.
Yes.
ones that matter to me. The manifesting positivity one is really you getting out into the world and being your best version of yourself and moving forward in a positive way. This is something that I think adds positivity to the world around us. And um, my husband's always been an entrepreneur, and he's always been about, making sure we celebrate the fact that, if he sees a lemonade stand, if he sees a kid selling something, doesn't matter. He doesn't matter how fast he was driving down one side of the street. He'll go make a U-turn, drive through a neighborhood, and he'll go back and he'll stop at the
Support their
lemonade.
entrepreneurial journey. Yes.
Yeah, because what those kids are doing is positively working, making an effort, trying to earn money, learning social skills. The list of what a kid running a lemonade stand can gain is huge. So mantra number 20 in the book is always stop at the lemonade stand. And it became something we would say. And to this day, my kids will be somewhere. And I'm like, my middle daughter lives in big cities and has for a long time. So she doesn't see them often. But when she's here visiting in the valley or she's somewhere, she gets so excited. She'll take a picture and she'll be like, I stopped at a lemonade stand. And our rule became, as they got older, you don't give them now it's probably $1 that they're asking for it. You hand them what's in your wallet and you explain to them what you're
Yeah.
doing. And so I mean, I have stories of that. My youngest was home last summer on an internship, and she came in one day. I'm working away in my little office out here. She tosses me this plastic cart, and I go, "Oh, you love me?" And she goes, "Well, I do." But there was a little girl stand right up the street. She was trying to earn money to go to camp. I gave her 20. Have a bracelet, mom. And she was making little bracelets that were in these little plastic hearts. They will let us know wherever they are on the planet if they've stopped and supported a kid, because we taught them that the key there is generosity. And when we are generous to the world around us, that always comes back to us in some
To
way.
us.
If in
Yes. I
nothing else
believe that.
other than a positive spirit we get from giving, and
Mm-hmm.
when we have
It's
given to
uplifting
somebody
to
else,
ourselves.
there's 1,000 ways to do this. And I just think that
Mm-hmm.
whether it's the lemonade stand, paying for the Starbucks order behind you, whether it's giving an hour of your time once a week to help a
Yes.
neighbor, volunteer to help a kid with homework, whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is,
Mm-hmm.
generosity is so. Come up with what phrase works for you, but always stop at the lemonade stand. I hope the people that are watching and listening to this go, you know what? They're going to pass one and go, there's a lemonade stand. I should stop and support that kid. And I
It's
mean, if they're
bigger
asking
and it's
25,
bigger than drinking lemonade that you don't know where the water is from or what that
yeah,
kid did to
you
make
don't
it.
have to
You don't
drink
have to
it.
drink it. Give the
Don't have to
let
drink it.
get the cup, walk off with it. You don't have to drink it because you are just putting a seed into that child's mind that I can solve a problem and
Uh-huh.
get rewarded financially with it honestly and with hard work.
Yep. That I
They're
came out here
seeing
to
the
work on this corner.
possibilities. Yes.
Exactly. And hooray to the parents that oftentimes, and now in today's world, I remember when we were little kids and we'd tell mom we were making a lemonade stand. She'd be like, okay, don't get hit by a car. And off down the street we'd go. But it's a different world today.
Yeah.
And of course, the parents are usually somewhere very close, keeping a tight eye on it.
Yeah, they
But
have
as
to.
they are, most parents just look at us and we're like, hey, thank you for getting your kid out here to do something other than letting them
Yes,
just see the television and play a video game. This is
exactly.
something important. So I
I
think
would
there's so
love
much.
to see more lemonade stands. Every time I see them, I get excited and I go over there and I talk to them, which
Yeah,
is not often because the only time I stop is because I was probably taking a walk in the neighborhood or something. But that doesn't even happen often. And of course, I'm mostly on freeways, so I'm never. So now you're just making me think maybe I should in the summer, early summer in Arizona, just ride around the neighborhood to see if maybe there are lemonade stands out, you know?
they're little kids trying to do, my youngest who's an entrepreneur. She used to have the craziest things she'd put together to sell. She started a duct tape business as a kid and got all into it. She had all this she made pocket lockers and wallets and pencil cases,
With
and
duct
she
tape?
was all with duct tape. She'd watch YouTube videos. She's quite the little character. And she would come home from school and I'd be like, at the time I was a teacher. I don't know that you're selling stuff at school. I'm not gonna say anything.
Right, right.
But then she sat down and my husband did a little miniature profit and loss. Okay, how much are you spending on duct tape? What are you earning? And so she got all
Right,
into
that
it to the
taught
point where
her.
she'd go to the little park up the street from our house, and I will never forget there was one weekend where my adult son was home, and it was when he was in college, and she got him to sign dance for him at the corner. In high school, he'd
Oh
been
my gosh, yes.
place. And she's like, "You're a professional at this." And she made him get out of the corner. He thought it was a riot that his little sister, and she made like $50 that day on people just thinking the whole thing was cuter than could be. But
Smart.
that set of skills that kids gain from that. But it's really so about that. Those are the two. I mean, the one about bringing positivity to your own life, and then the one about generosity. I think that those, hopefully, those takeaways will enlighten
I
listeners.
absolutely can see that. And a lot of times, again, in this world, those are values that is why people are just so vicious and attacking each other in parking lots on social media because we've eroded the value of empathy and connection and
Connection, all
seeing
that.
something other than ourselves and our needs. A lot of people would say, well, why would I give them $1? I need $1 myself. That's exactly when you give. Like, a lot of people, know about the global work that I've been able to do. And because of that, a lot of people think about how much money she must have and how well her business must be doing and how much money she making in her career. When I built the school in Africa, I was not even thinking about anybody even knowing. It was just going to be the kids, honestly, because I was just putting up the money that I usually put in church. It was the pandemic. There wasn't no church. So I was like, okay. And those kids needed a school and they were under a big tree and it was raining and they couldn't get to school. And the community started to bring materials together. And I'm like, okay, so how much would it cost for this? And I was just sending the money down and I got on camera and I was with the kids. The kids were actually doing the work, the teenagers doing the building. And I thought that's who would know, but the prince in that village wrote to a bunch of organizations and the UN and all of that and spoke on, well, Dr. Alisa did this thing. And I'm like, that was common sense stuff. Like they
Right.
they had a need. I didn't have a bunch of money. I just took from what I had and that's
But
what I did. But that was
that's
normal for me how I was raised.
right. And so because you have those values, because you have a value, because you value the lives of others, I mean, that's just, yeah,
But
that's common.
I didn't just wake up in my 30s and 40s and become this person. The good thing, and this is what I hope parents and everyone listening can understand, it was taught to me the way you taught it to your children, right? So it's who I am. I don't have to put on a show. I don't need attention. I don't need motivation. It's just you just do it. Someone needs it, you give them. It was like, oh, you're so kind. You give someone the shirt off your back. Yeah, because if I have two shirts and you're naked, then you have
Wasn't
a shirt
cute.
and I have a shirt. And if I have a slice of bread, we have a slice of bread. Like, I don't understand. Like,
No, but I know, and I think that's just so critical. But I also want to throw in there, if you're thinking, well, fine, I wasn't raised that way, and I don't. I mean, how am I? I can't become that kind of a nice person. Yes, you can.
yes, you can. It's a choice.
It's a choice. It's kind of like anything. I'm going to take it to athletic. Okay. There
Mm-hmm.
was a time where I was very athletic and very fit and very in shape, and I like that you can see me from here up. But I am now, as I approach this fabulous age, and life has had its toll on me. Yeah, it's had its toll on me in the last few years. So I am not the athlete that I once was. But if I really, really wanted to, let's say, do a half marathon, it might take me a year and a half to get there. But if I really, really wanted it, I could train. I could start to get uncomfortable. I could start to hurt a little at times. I could
Yes.
find myself in
Lose a
situations
little
that
bit of
were
sleep.
not where I really wanna be. Like, I don't wanna get up at
Mm-hmm.
5:45 in the morning so that I can walk for an hour. But if I wanted to get to that place, then those would be the challenges I would take on to transform my body. We can transform our minds and our hearts in the same way, and it's nice, and I'm grateful that I was raised in a certain way, that I've raised my kids in a certain way. But if I met up with somebody, I don't care how jaded, how angry, how hurt they were, if they said to me, "I don't wanna be this way anymore," it would be the same as training for that half marathon. Okay, you're gonna be in some uncomfortable spots. You're gonna have to train yourself to be a little different. You're gonna have to push yourself when it's not natural, but you're gonna
Mm-hmm.
get there and you can be a transformed person. And I think that that's super important, because if you're listening to this and you're hearing us talk about, well, I was raised that way and you weren't, well, let's fix that. It can be fixed. It starts with you, though. It starts with you wanting.
So
You
good.
have to have that inner desire to transform, whether it be something physical, emotional, spiritual, whatever it is. You can get there. You can get there.
But yes, you can. And I'll tell you, Colleen, my values when after going through divorce and realizing that the very person that you were best friends with, that you believed in when they didn't believe in themselves and you thought it was the same for you, blah, 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 all the things that we can talk about, can be the person that just lies to you or take from you and take advantage of you and do sort of derail you. Maybe not necessarily even in my situation, just watching other people. I remember sitting there with myself and say, why are you so nice? You, you have to stop being this nice and being a pushover. And then I tested my values. And this is why I talk to connecting with true values and core beliefs. I tested my values. I'm like, am I nice because I'm nice or am I nice because I was raised to be nice? And I started to go through it and I realized, no, this is me. This is what I value. And I said, you know what, God, I'm not going to let this painful storm make me hard, make me dry, make me dark, or whatever you name it. I used all the words and I said, it's not going to, because that is not who I am. And not because I was gentle and nice or going through a divorce or maybe a friend breakup or whatever, that means I'm weak. The world or others can say you're weak. I would have never, ever let him get away. I would never let her do that. I said, I didn't let them do anything. It feels good that I am able to maintain who I am and walk away from this situation with my dignity. And guess what? Most importantly, my peace intact.
And that's important too. And that's so very important.
So
Yes.
I did, and I tell people, you don't do people favors by being kind to them. You're doing that for you. Even that's self-full. I said it's not selfish, it's self-full. I changed the word, right?
I like
Because
that. Yeah.
every kind deed you do, like you said, it's not only about buying the lemonade from that child, it's you understanding, getting that feeling of, oh, I gave something to someone. Even in giving, it's a self-full act. It's to fill you up. I call it self-full
When I
because it's
talk about,
filling
yeah,
you
we
up.
think if we give of ourselves, we're gonna have less, but it's just not true. It's just not true.
No, you give yourself more. And so when
Yeah.
I see people who struggle to give, I said, please do not give that person that thing. It's like pouring a beta poison out. I feel like if I give you, be like, oh, look at Colleen came over here and drank all my lemonade. I can't stand it. Oh, I'm like, just say, Colleen, I'm not giving you my lemonade because now it's like pouring. When you let her drink your lemonade, then she walks away. You talk about it. You might as well pour poison in the glass and drink it yourself because you don't harm her. You're harming
Yeah,
yourself. You're
exactly.
missing out and you're like tainting the pool. Just don't do that, girl. Don't do it.
Yeah. I know, I got you. I got you.
So I say it's a selfful act to give because you're giving back. It's really giving to yourself. I said, when people say, oh, yeah, all the times I showed up for her at the hospital, I said, did you like it? What do you mean, did I like it? It was 12 o'clock at night. I was at the hospital every day for her. I said, did you like it? Or was there something you were expecting for her to do in return for you and you just didn't get it? Because either way, you were trying to do something for yourself. I see the hustle. Do you see the hustle? I said, it's always about us. We're humans. I don't think people understand how much is about us. Yes, you might it's like, so me showing up every day to record this podcast, I can tell y'all right now, this is not about y'all. I feel good sitting here with Colleen, gleaming from her wisdom. Forget who hears this after. I heard it. I experienced her work. I experienced a reminder of how transformation my values are in my life. Y'all get the leftovers. I'm sorry, boo boo. This is for me first.
As I coach and work with parents and help them figure out, like, because you get these so many parents who are like, okay, what do I do? What do I do now? This
Right.
thing, it's starting to talk to me and interact with me. What do I do with it? Well, let's talk about what you're doing. And the bottom line is you have to decide first. And whether it's in a parenting situation or I've worked with businesses and coaching them on how their managers should, interact with their teams. You first have to decide You have to analyze, you have to look at
Mm-hmm.
what are my core
Decide.
values? That's where I have everybody
Mm,
start. What is hoping? What do you want to see? How do you want to see your children interact with you? How do you want to see
right.
your children interact with their neighbors? How do you want to see your children interact with each other? Okay, so if that's what you want, what values are you going to instill in them? What core things are you going to put into your business, into your personal life, into your family that are going to allow you to have those outcomes? And that's where you begin with, okay, these things are important and they have
Yes.
to be core. And then how are you going to express them on a daily basis so that as you are building this, whatever it is, this trust
Mm-hmm.
with your
Mm-hmm.
team, that they're gonna feel the trust coming from you, they're gonna give it back, which is ultimately really right. It's gotta be reciprocal.
Yes.
So yeah, exactly. You gotta have that core. You gotta have
You
those
gotta have the core.
and you
My
can't
goodness.
pretend. You cannot pretend, which I see way too many young parents doing right now. And I see it as these millennials are into their 40s and they're managing and they don't know how,
They
no one
don't
listens.
know.
No one gives me, no one. Okay, well, let's start with one, what were the expectations? Was everybody
Mm-hmm.
clear on them? Valued?
Mm,
Two, what are you doing to deliver those same expectations? And you can't be valueless. You can't not have a set of foundational principles you're doing whatever it is by and expecting to have a particular outcome. So
exactly.
you've got to know what that is and you got to live by it.
This is so powerful because it shows people something critical. Extraordinary lives aren't built in big moments, they're built in the small, inconvenient choices. That's
Yes.
what I'm hearing you say. So let me ask you this. What value do you see missing most right now in families and teams and or leadership? Maybe one value. I can say
One
what's one
one
of them?
is I want to say I'm gonna throw personal responsibility out there as a value.
Ooh,
I'm gonna throw
ownership.
it out there because if there has to be ownership on both sides of the coin. If we're talking parenting, we're gonna use that as an example. You know, um, if you are as a parent losing your cool with your kids, telling them you're doing that because I said so, and not having patience, not following through on promises that and busy parents may not do this intentionally, but if you're not intentional, then you run into these problems. If you say to your kid, I'm gonna, I promised you that we would go to the park after school and throw the football around, or we'd go shopping, or we'd do whatever, and you get that business call that comes in. Yes, it's important to your family that you make sure you get that business transaction because, like you got a client, you've got to, real estate, this can happen. I mean, like every day I can't decide exactly what my plans are going to be because if a house came
Mhm.
on the market, there's that dream house. I got to
You
get those
gotta go.
clients in that dream house so that they can not miss out on the opportunity. If I have to break that promise to my kid that I was going to do something with them, then I need to my role, my personal responsibility. Hey, sweetie, I'm so sorry. You know that, mom has to get out there and get those houses before they're gone. So I've got to take, this family to go see this house right now. But this evening, I know we can't go to the park or we can't go do it, but you've been bugging me to sit down and play that video game with you so you could show me how good you are at it. I'm promising you, 45 minutes of my time this tonight after the dinner dishes are done. Can you make sure your homework's done and we will sit down and we will do that.
Yes.
The bottom line is your kid might have wanted to play football with you or they might have wanted something from the store, but what they wanted was you and your time. And when you respect them on that, because then you're looking at them going, I asked you to do that and you didn't get it done and you didn't do what you were supposed to do. You didn't show up when you were supposed to. And they're
Mhm.
thinking, heads, and you did? Now, granted, you're an adult with a lot of responsibilities and pressures,
Mhm.
but in the mind of your child, you just simply didn't show or you didn't
Yes.
respect the commitment. So you could list that on 1,000 different things. You scream and yell at them, and then you're unhappy when they roll their eyes at you and flip an attitude and walk away. Well, did you model conversation to them or did you model
Exactly.
yelling? And I think far too often that and maybe you didn't have it modeled to you. Maybe you were raised in a place where everybody screamed and yelled. Did you like it? Would you like it to be
Exactly.
different for your children? And, you know, our kids don't raise their voices. I think we grounded my son once in high school for a very short time. I think it was grounding him by taking his phone he never used away. And, because it just didn't happen. They very rarely lost their cool with us. Why? Because we didn't lose our
Mhm.
cool with them. We
Mm.
always had clever, careful conversation. And when I told my kids, I need you to do this, and I mean, I don't want to, or why? And well, because if you don't go to bed by this time, those muscles that you've been running around and using all day long aren't going to get their rest. And I'd go through this whole long spiel
Oh, that's
about
a
what they
question.
needed. And then I jokingly would say, because I told you so. And then they'd be laugh. By then they're giggling, and
Right.
because I'm
You
bigger than you.
disarmored them.
And then when my son got taller than me, he goes, "What's your reason now?" And I'm like, "'Cause I'm smarter and older, and that will never change." And so, we'd have a joke about it, but it was because it was started with a reason. And therefore,
Yeah,
when they wanted something of me, and I'd be like, "Are you kidding me?" And they're like, they'd give me their reason because I had always
exactly.
been reason with them. So I think personal responsibility falls on both sides. I think that is a
Yes, that's huge.
core, huge one for families.
I love it. Very good. The other question I have for you as we move into a little bit of a flip the script is for someone listening right now. Okay, this sounds good, but where do I start? Is what they're thinking. If they could choose one mantra, one value, one principle to practice this week, what would you tell them to start with and why?
Well, I love them all. So you're like, which one do I want to
I
put?
know.
I have two that come to mind, and one is I can't yet.
Ooh.
Oh, I can't yet was about overcoming obstacles. And I have one on failing forward and I have one on overcoming fear, but obstacles, those things that block us from moving forward. And
Mm,
I always, when because I can't yet just came from the fact that, when you're raising kids and then teaching teenagers, I can't, that
right?
whining, like, I can't do it. And then I would have yet, all of just the word yet.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I had a huge yet on my classroom wall. When a kid told me they couldn't do something, they didn't know how, I would point to the yet
Yes.
on the wall because it means you have to get yourself there. You might have to train. You might have to work a little harder. You might have to apologize. You might have to, you name what it is. And
Yes.
if you want to get past the obstacle, then you have to figure out your yet. And I called it living in the yet. And I think it's so important because it's that mind process that says I can I can do it even when I come up against that person that I don't like working with at work or the boss that doesn't seem to want to let me get promoted or, just that deep desire to have that really fatty, sugary snack before bed. And that's my obstacle. I can't get healthier because I can't yet. You'll get
Mm-hmm.
yourself to a place if you try hard enough that you will over.
That's what I love. I love it. That's the work, not perfection, execution, consistent alignment. Perfectly said. Colleen, we do mindset bites to go. I want to do a lightning round with you. One question, one value every adult must reclaim that you would say.
Respect,
Ooh, I love it. One mindset shift that immediately strengthens relationships.
intentionality,
Ooh, girl, that's so good. I'm feeling it. One mantra that keeps people grounded when life feels chaotic.
vision.
Yes, having clarity, you said beginning with the end in mind. So good. Now I'm going to step away from the microphone and give you a couple minutes to speak to our listeners and viewers as if it were the last time you get to tell someone about living the mantras. What would you say to them? Where would you tell them to go in terms of just taking it on for themselves, whether they're going to hone in on the 21 you've given us as a gift, or are they going to add and mix it? What do they do? It's your time. I'm going to step away from the mic and the camera, and it's all you. Here we go, Colleen.
Right. Gee, no pressure. But, the bottom line is the passion that I had to write this book had to do with the fact that, I believe that every life has a story to tell. And I'm a fervent believer in storytelling. And even when you're writing a nonfiction book like Living by the Mantras, you're you're telling the story of life that you live and the life around you. And one of my biggest challenges to anybody is to realize the value in your life. You were put on this earth for a reason, and you have special gifts and skills and ways that you can make change. And you've got to come up with a way to truly embrace that, to truly tap into who you are. My middle daughter used to tell us all the time to do what makes our hearts sing. And I truly believe that if you're doing what makes your heart sing, if you have a real understanding of what you love and you live your life doing that, you're going to push forward positively. You're going to have positive experiences with the people around you. You're going to have an impact on this earth we live on. And when you live by the mantras, you're just saying, I'm going to make sure that as my heart sings, as I move forward and try to create and make the very best of myself in this life, I'm going to do it attached to things that I think make me better and make the world around me better. And then in the end, the world is just a better place because you're in it, the lives you can touch, and the difference you can make. So grab onto that common sense wisdom and live an absolutely extraordinary life. And blessings to you.
We're probably going to make a whole podcast episode off of these. My question for you is, Colleen, tell us the best way to get a hold of a copy of your book, and also how to connect with you. And of course, we're going to have it in the description. And I already subscribed to Living by the Mantras on Apple Podcasts. So tell us all about it.
So here's the book. It comes in this fabulous paperback version, a hard copy of it. It's out there available on the Kindle. Actually, it's available on Audible. I'm a busy, as a realtor, I drive all the time. So I listen to so many books as I'm driving. And I actually did the recording of the book. So you'll hear my voice, because I think that when it comes to a nonfiction book, you need the energy and the passion that comes from the author, because otherwise you want to poke your eyes out after about an hour. So that book is available on Amazon, but you can order it from bookstores. If you're a person that wants to support a local bookstore, you can just ask them to order it. In fact, that's a great way, because then local bookstores learn more about it. But it's available anywhere you can get books. And if you go to livingbythemantras.com, and those will be the links that I know that Dr. Lisa is going to leave, you can go and you can find our website, where there's more information. You can learn more about us. You can learn more about the things that I do. I speak, I coach, and I also have the link to the podcast there. So please listen and like and subscribe. And it's just, it's loads of fun. And I feel so blessed that I got to be a part of this today. So thank you.
Exactly. The links will be in the description wherever you're watching and listening to this episode. So here's what I want all of you listeners and viewers to take away today. Extraordinary living is not about doing more. It's about choosing better, choosing different. When common sense and core values guide your mindset, you really don't just succeed. You become a very solid being, a solid place where people can build. You can build solid relationships, solid families, solid communities. And ultimately, Dr. Lisa still has the dream and the goal and the vision. Really, it's not even the dream, the vision of world peace. Because I feel when you're at peace with yourself, we become lighthouses that just keeps rippling across the shores. Colleen, again, thank you for remaining with us and reminding us that wisdom doesn't need to be complicated. It just needs to be lived. Do it. Do
today.
Yes. And now, right? To everyone listen, keep mastering your mindset. Think, speak, do, become. Bye now.